Hello, everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. At least here in Boston, it's reasonably sunny and warm. Hopefully, other folks have nice weather wherever they are. Let's see. Announcements and highlights. I don't think I have anything. I don't know if anyone else does. Okay. Next section. Any questions, issues, PRs people want to discuss? Anything that people didn't feel like merited a full agenda item? I've got some PRs that we can talk about, but I'll bring them up later.
Yeah, happy to look at PRs if there's not much on the agenda.
Okay, next up, several of us were talking about adding Marcos to the Osquery committers list. Hi, Marcos. I think
Hey,
Charbel, Zach, and I spoke in favor of this, and we haven't heard anything from anyone else. Stefano and Alessandro, if I can put you two on the spot.
Sorry, I thought I did comment on it, either on a thread here or somewhere else. But yeah, it's
go comment on this GitHub ticket. Stefano, I'd love your input as well.
it is a yes for me, definitely.
And if anyone doesn't feel comfortable saying anything bad here, feel free to reach out to me or Zach privately, probably. Otherwise, maybe if Stefano and Alessandro respond positively on this issue, then I'll try and remember how to do the things.
Yeah, and if you need any help, Steph, I'm pretty sure I know how to do it.
I think we just add Marcos to the GitHub team. I don't remember if I have to look at code owners to see if code owners matters, but it should just be those two things.
Yeah, somewhere in the settings tab.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for nominating me. I think it's a great pleasure to be able to contribute to this project. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for being here and doing stuff. So it's nice. It's good. That's really all of the agenda I had. There are some PRs that I think we could talk about. But I don't know if anyone else wants to bring up anything. Cool. PRs it is. Let's see. There's this ARM Windows support. Looks like they did some more work and maybe it should be back in our court.
Yeah, this is me. I've been a bit swamped. Yeah, I try to have a review again by the end of this week. Yeah, I don't want to further block this work, or well, slow down. So yeah.
Cool. Last time I looked, the diff looked pretty small, so that's always positive. Zach?
I also...
Sorry, whoever was talking.
Oh, yeah. So I have two PRs. I didn't have time to put it on the agenda. So these two are related to issues reported by fleet customers. So the first one is 7974, the one around improving the list directories in directory helper. So I think that one is ready for another code review. So I ended up including some unit tests to cover different scenarios and make sure that this helper works fine across different platforms. And I also have another one which is related to a fleet issue, which is 7991, the one that relates to sandboxed Safari extensions. So yeah, that one is. I mean, I'm not really familiar with the macOS code base, so yeah, if someone wants to take a look at that one just to make sure that I am not breaking anything, that would be awesome.
Just to sort of reiterate, 7974 is probably just fine.
Okay.
Is there anything we need to do to test that? I assume you sort of poked it a little bit, right?
Yeah. Also, that there's the integration test.
Great.
We'll be also covering some scenarios.
Brilliant.
Just a weird question about that. Did the symlink behavior stay the same as, like, I haven't looked at it yet. I wanted to, but did the symlink behavior, like, because I don't recall if Glob on Windows was following symlinks or was not following symlinks. I think as far as I briefly saw, you are currently not following symlinks but listing them, correct? Through the helper. Yeah. Do you know if Glob was following
that's
them?
a good question. I assume yes, but I haven't tested. So yeah, I can test that and comment on the PR just to make sure that we're.
Yeah, because I think also Linux Glob does, because we have a limit on, we have a limit somewhere on symlink following. But no, yeah, okay, it needs to be, it will need to be checked if Glob was following or not.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm going to check that out to make sure that we're keeping the same behavior.
Does it matter? Does the behavior change matter?
Well, it might matter for it might matter because it returns less. But I would say that on a hunch, it maybe wasn't, because there would have also been some kind of limits on the depth of the symlinks. I don't think I see any such configuration for Glob, but yeah. The problem simply is that, like, in the two cases, you have different amount of data. So
yeah, it might affect depending on where this is used. It might affect that the behavior of the caller. So in the case that this issue was reported, it was happening on the Python packages table. So it depending on the behavior, it might affect the number of packages that being returned by that table. So yeah, it will be good to check that out to make sure that it's working as expected.
There was maybe also a potential behavioral change around how it handles dot files and dot directories, because Glob doesn't get them, and this maybe does get them.
Okay.
I think that's okay. I think it's even desirable. I just feel like I should say it.
Yeah, but it's good to check them out. So yeah, taking it out.
Yeah, more things. Yeah, I was mostly worried on the less things part. Like, more things, it's more correct in this case, I would say.
Yeah.
Filtering can be done later.
I'm happy to remove my approval, but I'm pretty good with it in any of these.
No, sorry, it's not a hard blocker. It was mostly like curiosity. So, well,
just
leave it there.
Document the behavior. I think it will be useful to that. Yeah. Okay, and the next one is the Safari extension one. So, yeah. So yeah, that was a requirement a feature request from one of our customers, and I did some tests and it seems to be working fine, but I'm not sure if there might be some other things that they should be looking into before getting this PR merge into the code base.
We've done something like this often in Collide land, mostly just by parsing the p-lists directly. So I feel like if you're parsing the p-lists, then you're not doing it wrong. And then whether you're parsing them correctly, I don't know yet, but fundamentally it's just p-list parsing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
I think the intent is right. I don't know kind of where the version boundaries lie. Like, does it support all versions? How do we bubble that up? Do we just kind of not care because it's file system traversal? And I don't remember if I haven't looked at the paths, so I don't remember if they're system paths or if it's home directory paths. There's lots of always weird stuff in the edges of all of this.
Yeah, the version thing is a good point. So in this case, I am just not caring at all about the versions, just parsing the legacy one and this new app Safari extension model. So yeah, mostly because of the thing that you said is just directory file traversal and p-list parsing. So yeah.
Yeah, I will try and review this.
Okay.
And I might drop it on the floor. I'm sorry in advance if I do, but I'll try and take a look at it.
Okay.
And I feel like if it mostly seems fine, we can always iterate. So it doesn't.
Good.
That seems like it'd be okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
One of my coworkers had made a connected displays PR. Charvel, I think I threw that at you.
Yeah. I think I did. I don't have an external display, so these days I'm just working from a laptop and traveling, but it works.
If the
But if
code,
someone else can just try it with a non-Apple display, and if it outputs, then yes, I can thumb it. It compiles. It works.
I'm happy to test that. If you can review for code quality, that's
Sure.
That's probably fine. Caitlin has external displays, so I'm assuming that she did actually ensure that it produces the expected output.
Yeah.
I just I don't feel like I'm in the right spot to review code quality on it. So if you are,
I'll just do it right now. Yeah. I have some time.
Maybe I can download it unsigned targc universal. Oh, it's going to run into quarantine stuff. I can probably womp the quarantine though. And if not, we can always double check it once it merges. What else do we have here? Windows search. I haven't looked in on that. It looked like Marcos, you and James were going back and forth on that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully
I
productively.
suggested him a couple of changes and also suggested new schema for the table, which I think will be we will get will allow this table to be easier to consume, reduce the complexity of people using this table. So yeah.
Yeah, in Collide we do a
I mean,
lot with EAV models, so it's very natural, but it is harder for other people. So
yeah, I think having these functionalities is a great thing to do. I mean, the Windows search, the indexing service is works amazingly good. So yeah, I think it will be awesome.
okay, I'll maybe try and comment on the schema stuff. We can have that discussion there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, anything where like if we allow people to list the attributes they're selecting, then it's very hard to represent in a non-EAV format. So that's why we always end up with EAV tables, often launcher land. Can iterate in there.
Okay.
What else do we have here? Got some stuff from Dreamer Dead. So they're probably all pretty simple, would be my guess. Let's see. I'm just taking a look at them, and then missing data about key types and keychain items. Looks pretty simple. Okay. I don't know where people are in terms of reviewing small c code changes. But there's like 7995.
Yeah, I'm looking at 7999, which is a small one too.
Oh yeah, that looks like another good one.
Yep.
Feel free to approve anything you think is good, Marcos.
Okay.
I know you don't have official approved bits, but I'll just reapprove anything that you like. So
Sure. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing with Marcos's, but sounds like very soon we will have approved permissions for Marcos, and then Marcos, you'll be able to just approve and merge those things, which will be great.
Yeah, I just, I want to give anyone here a chance to object privately, and Alessandro and Stefano a chance to weigh in on the underlying issue. I don't
Absolutely.
expect to hear anything, but I feel like I want to be polite. So,
Absolutely, totally makes sense.
All of these PRs look very small and simple, and I think if I wasn't in a meeting, I would probably be able to approve them all. But other people can probably read C code faster than me. So.
Stefan and I just both commented on the issue in the foundation repository. And yeah, sorry, I think I just replied to the thread on Slack and only added the thumbs up on the issue without a comment.
Let me go, and I think that's close enough to majority or consensus or something that I'm just going to go do this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people across 2 companies. Excuse me, across 3 companies. So that seems pretty reasonable to me. And I think I don't feel the need to wait for anyone to object, because Stefano and Alessandro have not objected, and probably anyone else should have seen this on core. If any of the handful of you in this meeting would like to object privately, now's your chance to Slack me. I will keep you anonymous. Okay, no one has objected, and I'm now just squinting at the shenanigans of GitHub. Okay, Marcos D4H. Oh, God, why? GitHub, why do you make this hard? You make this so hard. Okay, Marcos, I think you have now been invited to join this team. So congrats.
Okay, thank you guys.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll try and see if we need you anywhere in code owners. But you should now be in the no, nothing in code owners changes. Okay, cool. Well done. Yeah, if so, I have a question that you Fleet people might have opinions about. So Apple is changing the keychain APIs. I brought this up in the past, and I haven't done anything about it, but everyone's nodding.
Yeah.
And Apple is moving away from. So right now we look for all the keychains and we manually pass them into the open keychain, and then we enumerate the items we find. And Apple is moving away from these APIs where you can work with explicit keychains towards an API where instead all you basically get to do is say, list all the items I have access to. And playing around with it, we have access to many fewer items. So I'm not real sure what to do with that. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone wants to have an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, are there command line tools on macOS that give the full-ish set of access?
I haven't poked around the security tool to see if it lists everything correctly or not. It's a real weird tool.
Yes, yes. Definitely.
Which
I mean,
security tool?
Yeah, the security command.
The security
yeah,
command is the keychain access command, but it's got sub commands and it's like super weird.
yeah, and the subcommands do include things like exporting certificates, and I've looked at what it exports, and it's like encoded in not quite sure exactly what formats. It's basically like it's like backslash encoded binary data sometimes, and I guess what I'm trying to get at with the question initially, at least, is like, could we look at what APIs that's calling, see if like, are they still using if it gets all the data, are they still using the deprecated APIs, or are there private APIs that we might be able to use, or maybe that won't work because entitlements or something, but I guess I just don't know. And then as well, it starts to make me wonder, like, should we make, like, is if that does have access to the right info, like, is the right thing to do to make an extension table? And that extension table could maybe live in the Mac admins extension, or maybe in this we would have to probably discuss this extensively, but maybe would we actually choose to shell out in Osquery?
I don't
Anyway.
think I'd rather push it to an extension than shell out. It just feels like a big step. What does the TCC util command have to do with this?
I think JD is saying it replaces some of the subcommands of the security command, but I think, as far as I can tell, it does not related to certificates, though, right?
No, TCC util is for managing the TCC database, and the only thing it currently does is reset, I believe.
Sorry, my audio is dropping in and out, so I caught part of that. I didn't realize we were just talking about certificates.
Yeah, all the stuff in keychains specifically, to be clear.
Presumably the new keychain APIs at least doesn't corrupt keychain data, because that's a known issue. If you rapidly use the open keychain API, Apple doesn't guarantee that it won't corrupt your data.
Yeah, that's what prompted this investigation, is that one of our customers sees corruption in their keychains tied to heavily querying the certificates table.
Has anyone been able to reproduce this or seen this in any other environment besides
The corruption?
Yeah.
If you just call that API like 100 times in like 5 seconds, it will eventually have a race condition and have it.
Oh,
And
really?
there's an open radar where an Apple's response is, yeah, don't query it this frequently.
Oh. So and like Charvel, you've seen that reproduce.
Yes, in a VM.
Okay.
I wouldn't dare try it with my normal user.
VM seems good enough.
Yeah, definitely count. Definitely counts.
I wonder if I don't know if this is a good idea, but like, could we copy the keychain and then call open on it?
Would APFS just have a copy on write and you are actually, I don't know,
Well,
maybe?
We wouldn't be corrupting it because we'd be
Yeah.
working off a copy. Kind of
Is the
disgusting.
keychain stored in a single file?
Ish. Keychains are SQLite databases, which have some row encryption or some column encryption. And given that there's a corruption here, they're clearly, like, whatever they're doing is real naive.
Yeah. Okay. And does anyone know like approximate size of these things? Is it kilobytes?
Megabytes, maybe. Yeah.
Kilobytes to megabytes, right? Because they've got a bunch of
1 or 2 megabytes. Yeah.
but it shouldn't be hundreds.
Do the APIs allow you to specify a path to the file?
Yep. I think you can select, you can pass in which keychain you want to look at, because a user can create any number of keychains.
I mean, Seth, your idea sounds quite worthwhile to me. It's like, I'd rather not, but if Apple's just like gonna tell us, screw you, like the API is just broken, so get over it, then maybe that's what we gotta do.
I kind of hate it, but like, I
One-
wonder.
One
Sorry, go on.
one could be like some EDRs like CrowdStrike or something can like have a false positive, like, hey, someone's copying your keychain, or Osquery is copying your maybe.
They're
I
going
don't
to
know.
trigger that off opens too. Like we get that all the time, right? Is that someone's EDR will trigger when we hit a lot of the Windows protected user enumeration endpoints.
Mm.
So I guess I'm being a little bit negative. Like I think you're right, but I'm also like I don't know what happens.
It would also require some caching of sorts, because yeah, if you have that table in a join, you can copy that thousands of times in a second. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I wonder if we could also like I don't know enough about the APIs. Like, is there one that could take a file handle and could the file handle just point into memory? Like, could we basically just read it into RAM and then use that versus I don't know.
I
What
suspect there's not. If you're talking about the
Plus-
Mac OS keychain APIs,
The security APIs are also weird.
I'm not sure I want to go down the route. The other thing we could do is just parse it directly using SQLite, right? Something maybe not full ATC style, but you can imagine going in an ATC-ish direction.
but then the challenge is going to be the column level encryption, perhaps, or
I don't think we decrypt the underlying encrypted material. I don't think the API. I don't know if the API exposes that to us, but I don't think we want to expose key data anyhow.
no, sure, we definitely don't. I guess my question would be which portions of this are encrypted in the keychain DB. So it sounds like there's some paths to look.
I don't think. I think we can list stuff in the locked keychains, the certificates. I might be wrong though.
Certificate uses OpenSSL APIs, right? Even on macOS, we switched
Yeah.
from using the Apple's APIs because of a performance bug.
Yes, that's right. So I wonder if we can just drop the security APIs and just find all the keychains and open them.
Well, then the question is, I mean, how much we care about edge cases, right? Can you create a keychain that's stored somewhere other than the default keychain paths?
Yes, you
And
can.
do we care? And do we care to find those? You know, do we care? Right? Somebody creates a desktop keychain folder or file.
We can't just open keychain with SQLite. So whatever they're doing is a little bit more roundabout. Just testing
It's
very quickly.
probably some sort of like SIP thing.
I know I feel like I figured out how to do this once before, and I don't remember how I did it.
So the keychains are, I think, TCC protected at the very least.
Oh, that's not a problem.
No, it's not. That's what full disk access is for. There's a link in the chat for some reverse engineering that somebody did about the format. Although I don't think it's been updated since macOS 12 when some of the format changes, potentially.
Charvo, do you know how to find that radar that you're referring to?
I'm not at a. I need like other computer. I think I have that bookmarked, but someone did share that to me in one of the Slacks, non-Osquery Slacks. I think it was some Mac admin Slack or similar.
Copying and caching it might not be terrible. I just don't know. I wonder if Apple's going to drop the whole API at some point.
I mean, the API is deprecated, so they probably will at some point, but I guess then it makes me wonder, what does the security tool use to get at this? I wouldn't be surprised to see that they use the old deprecated APIs, and so either are they going to change the functionality of the security tool, or are they going to realize that they need to provide more adequate APIs before actually removing the old APIs?
They may also just keep it using the deprecated one.
And then never actually remove those APIs.
Yeah.
Right. Seems plausible to me.
I think we've seen that from other Apple APIs too. And I don't know, Apple's command line stuff is just real janky around the edges. So I don't have a lot of faith in anything, I guess. I mean, this security dump keychain does something. But I can't quickly understand what. Okay. I got another question I can ask. So, Osquery scheduler. Our scheduler works based on uptime. And this is something that frequently confuses the Collide user base, possibly all of your user bases too. People will be like, I have this set to run every 24 hours. Here I am a week later and it hasn't run yet. And you're like, well, your machine was off every evening and like Wednesday, so it's only been up for 20 hours. I assume you all have encountered that weirdness. So I find myself wondering if we should modify the scheduler to possibly optionally work off of wall clock time instead of Osquery uptime.
Charvel, we talked about doing this. Did we ever do it or start?
No, I think we discussed it and had like an issue, but I don't think it was implemented. I might even have a branch somewhere, which is only tested locally. I'll try to dig it up, but yeah, I don't think this was completely done.
One of the things, so I opened a blueprint issue on this, and one of the things I found myself chewing on was whether we wanted to expose an option for changing behaviors, if that would be an option per query, just a config option. I don't know if anyone I don't know what people want. So pretty neat if y'all had the same thought and then mostly wrote it.
Definitely had the thought, and I think that just making it a global option to like use ticks versus use wall clock time would make a lot of sense. And I think
Global options certainly easier than doing it as a per query option.
Yeah, I would much rather see it as a global option than a per query option, just for simplicity of understanding what's going on.
Do you know why we have it the way we have it?
I think this goes back to 2014, 2015, when like MicroPyre first coded it, and I think there was a blog post or some comment where it wouldn't make sense when the computer is sleeping. I think that was the main use case they wanted to cover or account for.
So what I find right now, right, is if I think about this from the perspective of the laptop and I think about policy, right, and we've some policy that says, I don't know, some application must be installed or must not be installed, or I don't know, something like that. Firewall must be enabled, right? Some obvious piece of policy. Then measuring it from machine uptime kind of makes sense, right? If the machine hasn't been up, then it hasn't changed. If the machine's only been awake for an hour, no one will have changed it within that hour, right? So it makes sense to do it based on uptime. But once you start presenting that data externally, people find that very hard to reason about because like their underlying, policies and security procedures and all of that is written around wall clock time. Like no one says, oh, we must check the machines within uptime period. Is it just, there's like an impedance mismatch between kind of what makes sense, but how everyone thinks about it. So I'm curious a little bit, like if we just if we made a global option to change it, how do we think, does it make sense to, sorry, if we made a global option to change it, is anyone going to say like, no, I want it one way on some queries and one way on another queries, or what?
I was like on that note, I was going to ask, because how would you then run the queries? Let's say that you have queries with an interval of a couple of hours, all of them, and the well, even higher. But anyway, the laptop that we see has been off for that interval, for the interval of all queries. When Osquery is started, would you execute all of them one after the other, or with some small splay?
Yeah, my dumb implementation was basically run at load. Basically, when Osquery start up, it'll just get all the queries to be executed and it'll just execute. But I think that this can be improved with some splay because it can create a spike, and the watchdog can potentially, take an action.
Yeah, so for the watchdog, maybe less due to the fact that, well, okay, there may be distributed queries, etc. But scheduled queries, since they are serial, they should not give too much of an issue. It's more the impact on the system. It's that maybe I expect people preparing a query pack or in general scheduler configuration, spacing queries to avoid too many things happening together. Like display helps, but I think, I don't know, maybe a few seconds isn't always enough.
I think there's actually two problems that you've identified. So one, if you imagine a bunch of queries that are set to run every 6 hours, every hour, whatever, some interval, right? And you say, okay, these are each a little expensive, but they'll distribute themselves across 6 hours. I don't have to angst about it. And then your machine's off and you turn it on. So now the first problem is that it wants to run all these queries right now. So you can imagine a little bit of splay there. But then the second problem is that 6 hours from now, it's going to want to run all the same queries again. So like you need some kind of resplay mechanic as well as a soft start mechanic.
Wait, sorry, I didn't.
But the display spreading is an issue with ticks as well, though, isn't it?
I don't think so, because they don't all happen. If you have 10 queries that you want to run every 6 hours, they don't all start on the 0th tick. They kind of just randomly happen.
I don't actually remember exactly how it works, but let's say you have 10 queries you want to run every 60 seconds with a 10% splay. Do we just basically schedule them all starting at the 0th tick, that query 1 runs somewhere between 54 and 66 seconds later. Query 2 also runs on a different between 54 and 66 seconds later, and then keep using those same splays for all further executions. Does anyone remember?
I
I'm
think
not sh-
so.
Sorry. So sorry, I didn't understand the explanation. Are you saying like the first one runs between 0 and the 60th tick, the second one between the 60th and the 120, etc.? Or because as far as I recall, if you put an interval of like 60 and then a splay, they will all run after 60 seconds of Osquery execution have passed. So they will all be grouped, and that's why we have a splay to just distance them a bit. And I think that also the splay is calculated only once, or at least once when Osquery starts.
Right. I mean, this is all so long ago. I can tell you I remember that we were very concerned. I'm not sure how concerned we were about performance on an individual host, but we were very concerned about spikes of resource utilization across many hosts. So a lot of these mechanisms, I think, are designed around, if you have 1,000 hosts, are you having a bunch of queries try to execute at the same time on all of those 1,000 hosts? So I think that what Stefano is describing could make sense in that the splay might be not actually intended to splay the individual queries on one host. It might just be intended to splay the execution of queries across multiple hosts that all start up at the same time. And then additionally, if I'm thinking about the wall clock time issue in a related issue, like imagine you're having a scaling event and 1,000 new hosts all start up or all restart or something like that. And with the wall clock time, they will all probably, like someone already mentioned, they'll all immediately want to run their queries because they've been off for 24 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I think the issue, like display, will still be there, not making the various query not run too close to each other. But the problem is that the amount of query that will run. Like if the query had purposefully different intervals to further splay them and reduce the amount of times they were queried, etc., now they would be all executed one after the other or slightly splayed. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the like either giving control for which query you want to run with wall clock or uptime, or maybe some way to give a different splay when you use wall clock. Well, actually,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think there's probably a way to get real clever with splay here. And I want to say something like, if your machine's been off for sufficiently long and you turn it on, then there's going to be a bunch of waiting queries. And it's probably okay to gently do those, right? And whether that's a 10-second timeout between them or whether that's a little bit of fudging around splay, I don't know. And the thing that worries me is about having that event reoccur every time period. So I'm sort of wondering, like, okay, if you run it at T0 and you're supposed to run it every 60 ticks, do you run it at 60, or how do you apply that splay interval going forward? So I feel like there's something there. I don't know. There is a blueprint issue, so if people want to discuss it there, that's probably valuable.
And yeah, just as I was just throwing something, a possible problem that I just thought about. I don't have any. Well, beyond the example I just did, I don't have any specific, case. So,
I mean, it is an excellent identification of a problem.
yeah, I know. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't. I'll have to chew on that. There might be a clever solution.
Yeah, I think the first step was also understanding if it was a problem we wanted to look into or we cared. I think that was the reason for my input.
I think it is a problem we would want to have a good answer for. I think you're right. No, you're right to call it out. Most of our meeting looks like they went muted, and we're relatively close to time. So I don't know. Anyone have anything else they want to bring up? If not, I say we end it. Cool. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Same.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. See ya.